1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. No, audio. Yeah, I usually forget to unmute my mic. Yeah, I okay, let's. So we were going to do some research. We're up to 177 users, subscribers. This is such a. It's like we added a few today. We were like stuck at 175. Then we gained two subscribers. Two subscribers to the channel. Oh my god. We're marching slowly towards the 2 billion users. Very soon, very soon. Anyway, all right. Let's think about what we want to do with our lives. So, what do we got? What do we got? Let's think. Okay, let's watch. Let's continue watching this guy. Poor guy. Let's watch.
That you would measure. But conversely, the fact that you keep getting the same answer means that electric and magnetic phenomena are part of the conspiracy to hide your velocity, just like mechanical phenomena.
What do you mean conspiracy to hide your velocity? Why should anybody care? Why is it some weird conspiracy? Why do you need this conspiracy that it's why is it so important to hide your velocity? Why is it so important to hide your velocity? Why? I don't understand.
Phenomena won't tell you how fast you're moving, neither will electromagnetic phenomena. Because Einstein is very obvious that nature will not design a system in which mechanical laws are the same, but laws of electricity are different. So he postulated that all phenomena, whatever be their nature, will be unaffected by going to a frame at constant velocity relative to the initial one. It's a very brave postulate because it even applies to biological phenomena, about which I'm sure Einstein knew very little. But he believed that natural phenomena will just follow either the principle of relativity or they won't. And that is something you should think about. If that was the only reason he had, he just said, I don't believe chapters 1.
Right. So he said it's a postulate. He's saying it's a postulate that it has no foundation.
Through 10 in our book, Obey Relativity, and chapters 20 through 30, where the E&M doesn't. Use all natural phenomena will obey the same principle, which says all observers are uniform relative motion.
Well, that's just so. If you assume that the underlying nature of all phenomenon is ether, then that's the reason, because everything is waving through the ether. If you assume that, which is a mechanical assumption, which is a strong assumption, it's not like Einstein's postulate. You said it's very brave. Well, then it's not scientific. There's no foundation. He made a leap of faith. That's not science. That's nonsense.
Motion are equivalent.
No one is listening to me saying all these wonderful things.
Now, that's really based on a lot of faith. And even though scientists generally are opposed to intelligent design, we all have some bias about the way natural laws were designed. There's no question about it.
Did you hear what he just said? That it was based on faith. This is not scientific. Look what he's comparing Einstein's assumptions to creationist design, with intelligent design.
We have a faith that underlying laws of nature will have a certain elegance and a certain beauty and a certain uniformity across all of natural phenomena. That is a faith we have. It's not a religious issue, otherwise I would bring it up in the classroom, but it's certainly the credo of all scientists, or at least all physicists, that there is some elegance in the laws of nature. And we put a lot of money on that faith, that the laws of nature will do this or will not do this. Who are we to say?
That's nonsense. That's nonsense. You don't need that. You just need a mechanical, right? You always assume there is the ether. If you just went with the ether, everything follows. You don't need any faith. You broke away from ether, and now you are detached from reality. Now you come up with nonsense rules. That's not science.
Say that. Who are we to say nature wouldn't have a system in which mechanics obeys the laws, but electricity magnetism doesn't?
Exactly. You can't just make up rules. That's not science. Science is mechanical.
We haven't run into somebody called nature. We don't worship a certain deity called nature, but we believe the law.
Okay, listen to this discussion. This is such an unscientific. You don't even need me to tell you that this was an unscientific step. He says it explicitly. Look at how much time he's spending saying it was unscientific. This is brilliant.
The laws of nature obey that. So even though scientists or physicists in particular may not believe in design by any personal God, they do believe in this underlying rational system that we're trying to uncover.
No, you can't. What do you mean? I don't know what you mean by rational. That's nonsense. This is nonsense. This is not science.
You could be disproven. You could be wrong in making the assumption, but here it was right. It was really driven.
course, you could have been wrong, but you broke away from a mechanical universe. So of course you could be wrong. You just made a guess. This is not science.
by this notion that all laws of physics should obey the same principle of relativity. So the Einstein's postulates are that light behaves in this way because if it didn't behave in this way, it would violate the principle of relativity. Whereas
It's nonsense. What do you mean? Because if it didn't, it would violate the principle of relativity. What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means. What the nature is under no nature is under no obligation to follow any rule you make up. This is nonsense.
as we know mechanical phenomena do, electrical phenomena would not. That cannot be the case. You have a question? Yes.
Why would that apply with the speed of sound?
Yes. Because in the case of speed of sound, you can't take the medium with you. So there's no such experiment you can perform.
Through 30, where we do E&M doesn't. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what the closed captions are saying.
See, in the train, if you could carry the ether with you, it's no surprise you get
Principle, which I don't know what's going on. This is completely lacking maybe synchronicity. We're at 4305. Let's refresh, see if it helps.
you get the same loss. That's the thing. And I hope you understand that all the mechanical things you see in the world around you just come from F equals ma. We have seen projectiles and collision of billiard balls and rockets. Just like mechanical phenomena won't tell you how the case. You have a question? Yes.
Why would that apply with the speed of sound?
Yes. Because in the case of speed of sound, you can't take.
No, it's still nonsense. Through 10 in our book, Obey Relativity, and chapter 20. Oh, this has to do with what he's saying.
The medium with you. So there is no such experiment you can perform. See, in the train, if you could carry the ether with you, it's no surprise you get the same answer. But we know we cannot carry the medium with us. That comes from terrestrial experiments. That's why the velocity.
That comes from what experience? Stellar 3? Stellar 3? What?
Sound is not elevated to a fundamental velocity on which everybody will agree. So the two great postulates. So you got to know where the postulates came from. The postulate number one is simply a restatement of the relativity principle. I'll just say it in one sentence. Exact wording is not important. All inertial observers are equivalent. But equivalent means each one of them is as privileged as any other one to discover the laws of nature. So the laws of nature we found are not an accident related to our state of motion. If I find some laws and you're moving relative to me, you'll find the same laws. And if you and I find each other in relative motion, you have as much right to claim you're at rest and I'm moving, and I have as much right to claim I'm at rest and you're moving. There's complete symmetry between observers in uniform relative motion. There's no symmetry between people in non-uniform motion. As I said, non-uniform motion creates effects which can destroy me and not destroy you. So no one's trying to talk you.
You don't need to say any of this. If you just go with the ether like you had the ether before, just go with the ether. You don't need any of this nonsense. There's no special relativity. It's just wave mechanics. Just go with wave mechanics. Why do you need this mumbo jumbo? The laws of nature? Why are you talking about the laws of nature all of a sudden? What is this nonsense? No one is listening to me.
Your way out of acceleration, but you can talk your way out of uniform velocity. That's the first principle. So this was there even from the time of Newton. What is true here is that all inertial observers are equivalent with respect to all natural phenomena, meaning all natural laws. And that is a generalization when we say all instead of just mechanical. And the second postulate, you call it a postulate because there is no way to deduce this, which is that the velocity of light is independent of the state of motion of the source, of the observer, of everything. If a light beam is emitted by a moving rocket, doesn't matter. The light beam is seen in a moving rocket, doesn't matter. All people will get the same answer for the velocity of light. Yep.
He's not saying that they're moving. He's just saying all observers. But he did say rocket. But why?
No, that's why it's postulate. You can show a few things later on. You can show that if there's any other speed, which is the same for everybody, that would have to be the speed of light. In the final.
Why? If there's any other speed, it's the speed of light. Why? That's not true. I mean, you could show everything that's true for relativity in a bucket of water. There's nothing special about water waves. So there's nothing special about the speed of light except for we just don't. All there is the ether, and the ether seems to transfer information at the speed of light. The propagation is through the ether is at the speed that we noticed as the speed of light. That's just what we noticed, and we haven't discovered anything else, and there's no room, because the universe is filled with the ether, there's no room for anything else except for the collapse of the wave. So waves travel at the speed of light, but these waves, when they interact, they collapse into back to the original energy. So that collapse is instantaneous. So I don't know if we can. No one has ever been able to do anything with that. Oh, one person is watching us finally.
theory of relativity, there are not two or three velocities that come out the same for everybody. There's only one velocity that can have the same answer for all people. That velocity is the velocity of light. But that I don't mean
That's nonsense. The same applies for the velocity of water waves, for the velocity of sound waves. It just depends on the clock. If the clock works on the waves that you are measuring, you will get a constant speed of the wave. That's just because of the clock. The distance is the same. The clock ticks whatever it needs to tick. It slows down when you move through the medium, if your clock slows down, okay, so you still measure the same speed. So I don't know. I mean, so it that statement is not. It has nothing to do with light. It's just that the prevailing medium of this universe is the ether, and ether seems to have this propagation speed of what we call this of what we know as the speed of light. And there's no room for any other medium in the universe because this medium is everywhere. So that's it. It just so happens to be. This is discovered. There's no reason to say. There's no reason. It's just that if you assume that the ether fills the universe, which is a logical, it's a mechanical assumption, this universe seems to be filled with this liquid. So once you assume the universe is filled with this liquid, all right, then the speed of propagation of this liquid is the speed that's it. Nothing can, no information can travel faster than the speed of propagation in this liquid. That's it. Anything else can only travel slower.
it has to be light itself. For example, gravitational waves travel at the speed of light. So it's not just the light, it has to be the velocity of light being a single number,
Well, that's because it's the ether.
which has to have the same value for everybody. Okay, so it looks like he has solved a big problem. Because he has said why light behaves this way. Light behaves this way because it's part of the big conspiracy to hide uniform motion.
That's not a reason. You keep saying reason.
It looks like he has solved a big problem.
He didn't solve a problem. He didn't solve a problem. What do you mean he solved a problem? You keep saying conspiracy. This is not scientific.
Why light behaves this way? Light behaves this way because it's part of the big conspiracy
To hide your uniform motion. That's not scientific. There's no conspiracy to hide uniform motion, and it's not hidden. You can discover it with an interferometer. If it's accurate enough, you'll discover uniform motion through the ether. This is utter nonsense.
hide uniform motion. But he was
What do you want to? Why do you want to hide uniform motion? What do you get from that? What do you care if you can discover your own uniform motion? Why should you care? Why is that of any significance? If I can discover my uniform motion, oh God forbid, it's the end of the universe. Why would I care? That doesn't make any sense.
will see that you have made a terrible bargain now. Because once you take these two postulates, you have restored the relativity principle to all phenomena. Okay, you've gone beyond mechanical phenomena to electromagnetic phenomena. But you will find that you have to give up all the other cherished notions of Newtonian physics. Think about why. We're saying, here's a car going at 200 miles an hour, according to me.
This is nonsense. What are you talking about now? You have to give up what? There's nothing happened. What are you talking about? This is just wave mechanics. What are you talking about? Because of moving vehicles? I don't care. But you have to treat everything as a wave. As long as you treat everything as a wave, everything is fine. What are you talking about?
You get into your own car and follow the car at 50 miles an hour. You should get 150, but you keep getting 200. Okay, so it may not be true for cars going at the speeds I mentioned, but finally you're talking about a pulse of light. That is true. You got to agree that is really.
But that's a wave. This is wave mechanics. There's nothing new in special relativity. This is just wave mechanics.
Not compatible with our daily notions or with the formula.
Yes, it is. With wave mechanics. Okay, at least there's two people watching.
Down W equals V minus U. When you put V equal to C, W has got to come out to be C. And that's not property of the Newtonian transformation. So what we're looking for.
Newtonian? Of course it is when you talk about wave mechanics. Of course, it's wave mechanics. As long as you're talking about wave mechanics, everything is fine. As long as your clock is based on the wave that you're measuring the speed of, then it's just wave mechanics.
new rule for connecting x and t and x prime and t prime, such that when the velocity
No, these are the same rules for all wave mechanics.
is computed and applied to the velocity of light, you get the same answer. That's what we want to do now. So here's how we're going to do this. Now let's think about it. Let me send a pulse to the right at speed c. You're going to the right at 3/4 of c. My Newtonian expectation, you should get the speed of the pulse to be 1/4 of c. But you insisted it's c. So what will I say to you? What will I accuse you of doing? I say you should get c over 4, and you're getting c. And you're finding velocity by finding the distance it travels.
But it's just wave mechanics. You always see c in wave mechanics if your clock is based on the wave whose speed you're measuring.
Dividing by the time. So you're jacking up a number like 1/4 to c itself. So what would make you do that? Yep.
If I see that you're moving forward, or you're contracting your leg.
He's not going to explain what does it. He's just going to say, well, that's the way nature is, because we're going to ignore the fact that it's waves. That light is a wave through the ether. If you ignore that, yeah, you need to explain the universe in some awkward way. You're paying such a price for ignoring the ether. Why would you do that?
Then you're going to measure. Then you measure velocity.
And no one is asking, why isn't this just wave mechanics? Isn't this, if you just assume waves, isn't this math just wave mechanics? This is Yale. These are geniuses. These are off the chart geniuses. Why are they not asking this?
Yeah. So one option, let me repeat what he said. I will say your meter sticks are being somehow shorter. When you and I were buddies and we were in the same train, we agreed on the meter stick. Now you've gone into the moving train. I would say that there's something wrong with your meter stick. Not only something wrong, specifically, I would say meter sticks are shrunk. For example, if they're shrunk to 1/4 their size, it's very clear that you will get a velocity before times what I expect.
But you're just concluding. That's conclusion. But if you go with wave mechanics, everything becomes straightforward. You don't have to make up new rules that things are shrinking. It's wave mechanics. It's because you're observing with the wave. So that is what you get. I need to do what do you call it? Length contraction. I still haven't done length contraction, but anyway.
Well, that's another possibility. Yes. Your clocks may be.
Your clocks are just if your clocks are based on the waves that you're measuring, then that's it. Fine. It's just wave mechanics.
So you let the light travel for 4 seconds and you thought it was only 1 second. That's why you got 4 times the answer. Or it could be both. Or something has to give.
Something has to give. Or there's just a medium and it's just wave mechanics.
And that is why it is an amazing theory. That's why it's not.
That's not scientific. You can't have an amazing theory. That's not mechanical.
It's amazing to me that somebody who's 26 years old would simply follow.
It's really dumb. The fact that the world has followed this for 100 years and I don't see the end of it, that is amazing. It's amazingly bad.
Follow the consequence of this theory and take it wherever it takes you. But
it's not a theory. What theory? You didn't present a theory. There's no theory. It's two postulates. It's not a theory. You don't have a mechanical explanation. This is not science.
At the very foundations of space and time that you have to modify. So even though you restore the
You don't have to modify anything. It's just wave mechanics.
relativity principle and brought it back to the front, the price you have to pay is to give up your notions that length is length and time is
You
time.
don't have to give up any notions if you just assume the ether. It comes for free. Didn't Lorentz is guilty because he said that you get shrinkage from the electron field. That's all they needed to do is imagine this in water waves. Jesus Christ. But okay, I guess it took 100 years to figure it out.
We used to think a meter stick is a meter stick and a clock is a clock. If I have a clock that ticks on 1 second, you take it on
A clock is a clock, but if the clock works on a wave and you're moving through the wave, then the clock is it's different. The ticking, if the clock is the clock, but the ticking is different.
the train. I expect it to be ticking 1 second, but you're saying it's not. Or something has to give in length, measurement, or time measurement. Or both.
No, it's an optical effect created by waves.
And that's what we're going to find out. So here's how you find that out. So let us say that, maybe I'll do it all in one blackboard. This is the key to the whole calculation. You remember now, you've got an event here. You call it x prime, I call it x.
Okay,
And
that's it. I mean, he told us everything. He told us that it's just a guess, that it's not scientific. Oh, existence universe. Hey, the reason the Yale geniuses are not asking these questions are because you're incorrect to the utmost degree. Really? Why don't you come here and debate me, Mister? Come debate me. I'm open-minded. I might be wrong. I might be wrong. Come debate me. It would be wonderful. Because I'm wrong. Fine. Let's say I'm wrong. Why aren't they bringing up the potential explanation of the ether as a liquid theory? And if I'm wrong, then Einstein is wrong. Einstein in 1920 said this everything I'm saying, except for the motion of the ether. But Einstein said there is ether in 1920, and probably from I'm forgetting in other at other times.
to me, you have traveled the distance ut. So x prime equals x minus.
Let me check. There's no one on my Discord. There's two people watching Existence Universe. There is nothing to debate. Oh my god, you're not gonna debate me? Let's have a discussion. They are not bringing it up because the ether is not a liquid, lol. Alright, fine. Space is not juice, lol. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's of course it is. I mean, you see it in general relativity. You see it in Maxwell's equations. Of course it is. And Einstein said so. Not that I care that Einstein said so, but you're disagreeing with Einstein as well, not just with me. You can laugh all you want, but it's up to you. You're welcome to come and discuss this with me, and ask all the questions you want. I'll answer all your questions. Look, I was just interested to see if Shankar, if he is, how is he going to tell us about Einstein? And he gave us a religious sermon. That's what he did. Okay, I think we're done with him. Let's go now to this guy. This is Don Corleone or something. I forgot his name. Don something. Don. Blah blah blah. What's his name? Don Lincoln. This is Don Lincoln. I wish I could get messages every time you ask me a question. So, why a liquid, not a fluid like a gas? No, no, it cannot be like a gas because it has to be the same fabric from general relativity. This is it starts as it doesn't start. I mean, it starts from many places, but this is the ether is gravity. It right. You never answered. Why does the apple suddenly accelerate towards the ground? Why is that? So imagine imagine a fluid that flows into the earth and it sucks everything in its path, and it sucks the apple towards the ground. As it flows into the earth, it sucks everything in. I am being sucked into the ground right now. That is the force of gravity. Right, because something is creating the force that is on my tushy right now. My tushy is experiencing a grave force. What is causing that force? That force is caused by the interaction of this liquid flowing through me, forcing me to get sucked down into the ground. So that's how it works. That's the ether as a gravity, and that is the ether for the speed of light and for all waves. Do you mean fluid? Yeah, I mean fluid, liquid, fluid. What's the difference between a liquid and a fluid? As far as I'm concerned, it's the same. This is fluid dynamics. A lot of how it works you can figure out if you just use notions from fluid dynamics, fluid mechanics. A liquid with infinite density. No, no, it does not have an infinite density. It has whatever density. I mean, it seems to be made up of particles with mass, and there is some sort of springs connecting the particles. It doesn't stretch. So this fluid cannot stretch, because if it could stretch, then instead of the apple falling down, the apple could move upwards, and the this fabric would stretch. So it cannot stretch, just like water, right? Water cannot stretch. You cannot create a vacuum in water, nilly willy. In order to stretch water, you need to create bubbles inside water, and this fluid doesn't heat up, so there's no cavitation. I don't think there's any cavitation. You never see this force, this fluid fail. So there's no cavitation, there's no stretching, there's no bending. It's a perfect liquid, it's a perfect fluid, basically like water. No, it doesn't have infinite density. It has some density. It doesn't have infinite, because if it had infinite density, then the speed of light would be infinite. It has a specific density, and this density gives the speed of light its value because it has a specific density. That density is relevant in the speed of propagation, in the maximum speed of propagation of waves through this thing, through this fluid. What is the density? Can anything exist between the liquid particles? No, no, nothing, because there is nothing. There are no particles to exist. Everything else in the universe is a wave. Everything in the universe, in our reality, is a wave. We are just waving through these particles. The only fabric of reality is the ether. We are waves in ether. We are ethereal waves. We are waving through the ether. As the ether flows through us, we are waves in the ether. This is how the ether flows right through us, because we are waves. There's no separation. There's nothing else to fit in, because there is nothing else in the universe. This ether is the field from quantum field theory, from general relativity fabric, from the speed of light field, from electromagnetics field. It's one. This is the unified field. The ether is the grand unified field. So nothing else can get in between these liquid particles. What is between the ether part? Some springs, more smaller ether fluid particles. No, just springs, because it has to have some springy quality, because otherwise you wouldn't get a wave. In order to get a wave, and there's different types of waves, right? Um, there's different types of waves. There is compression waves, which are gravitational waves. And by the way, the motion of the fluid is gravity. The destruction of the fluid is gravity. But you could have a gravitational wave. That is when you move your hand, you're creating a gravitational wave. That is a wave of compression of these particles. You can have an electromagnetic wave. We know exactly what that looks like. It's exactly as Maxwell describes. All right, so that's electromagnetic, and I guess there's other ways. And there's one more thing, besides any type of wave that we can create. This wave can collapse, and the collapse of the wave is the creation of what seems to be a quantum particle, but it's a fleeting existence. It's just the very act of interacting or measurement that instantaneously gives you the feeling that there is a particle, but there is no particle. when when it moves, it's a wave. It can Nothing can exist in the ether except for waves of ether. And everything, this table, this computer, Don Lincoln is composed of little particles that are waving. They seem, when the light shines on his forehead, then these waves, every time an electromagnetic wave hits his forehead and you see his forehead. But this is explained very well in quantum field theory. I'm not explaining anything. I'm just putting everything together in a grand unified field theory. But everything is waving. I'm not adding any information. I'm just unifying everything under ether. Everything, for me, everything is mechanical and makes perfect sense. Um, okay, more smaller ether fluid particles. No, just something springy. There's some spring. I don't know. Now, it could be that the ether itself, that the particles that make up the ether, they don't seem to be waves. They seem to be actual particles. It's just like water. Water is actually not actually, but water seems like particles, and there you could have ocean waves through these particles. So the ether seems like particles for now, and we are waving through these particles. If nothing can fit between the ether particles, that is the definition of infinitely dense. No, no, no. There is a distance. There has to be a distance. There is springs. No, there's an actual. You could say there's an actual vacuum. There's an actual vacuum between these particles. That there's no reason that there cannot be an actual vacuum between these particles, and there is springs, some sort of springy between these particles, and 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 that's it. But I don't see anything else. Mandible says, have you looked at magnet under a ferro? I don't know what a ferro cell is, so I don't know. You should watch it on stream. Well, why? Tell me why. The field is not particles. Particles means things fit between them. Why not? Why not? The, what's wrong with a field of particles? You can have a field of anything. If the field must be particles, because I cannot imagine anything else. Water is particles. Air is particles. The ether is particles. Waves are excitations or propagations of compression or different types of motions, um, through through these particles that are interconnected with some sort of springs. Now, these seem to be actual particles with actual springs. I know it's weird, but it seems to be that those are the actual particles for now. I don't know. I'm assuming later people will find that it never ends. That this chase to the subatomic particle never ends. But everything we know in physics is on top of ether. Ether is its own thing. All of nature is just an artifact of ether. Gravity is ether. It's the motion, it's the flow of ether. And electromagnetism is specific wave types, just as Maxwell describes, through the ether. And everything else are just waves through the ether. And Schrodinger just explains the waving through the ether, and Heisenberg explains the waves, these waves. Everything in quantum physics just explains the artifacts, everything that is created because of the nature of this ether. It's just the behavior of this ether. Everything we know in this universe is just an artifact of the ether. The ether seems to be the real deal. Everything else is just different types of waves and interactions. A black hole is is an effect of the ether. Dark energy is the creation of new ether. Gravity starts with the interaction of the ether with massive particles, what seems to be massive particles, through the Higgs mechanism. The Higgs mechanism is a mechanism of the ether. The gravity is created when this ether interacts with massive particles and self destroys. It disappears, it annihilates, creating a vacuum. And that's why you need dark energy. Dark energy refills the universe. Otherwise, the universe will collapse on itself because all the ether flows into massive particles. So the universe would have run out of ether a long time ago, but because there is a constant resupply of ether, of dark energy, that's how you that's how you can still the universe is not collapsed on itself. And there is an imbalance. There is more ether being created than being destroyed, and that's why the universe is expanding. So that's dark energy. Dark matter is just the flow of ether into galaxies, and this flow, um, this flow cannot create. Can this flow create um, this flow, something about this flow? So inside the galaxy, the pressure actually has to drop. Galaxies are low pressure. There is a pressure to the ether, because without this, right, the pressure is created by the creation of new dark energy, of new ether. So more ether is being created, and that is the positive pressure. But galaxies are sinks. Galaxies destroy ether, so they create low pressure. So low pressure creates high velocity because of Bernoulli's principle. This is just fluid mechanics. So the ether flows into galaxies, but it's low pressure. So dark matter, I used to think that dark matter is because there is faster flow. Faster flow um, should give you a relativistic effect, but I don't think you can get a relativistic effect from the flow of the ether. I don't think the ether. I need to think about this, because a relativistic effect is just an effect of wave mechanics. So can you still get an effect of particles? Um, so can you get dark matter? So I don't know. I don't know what dark matter is yet. But dark energy is clear. I mean, Einstein predicted dark energy because of GR. Ether is just GR. Einstein agreed in 1920. I discovered this only after I came up with this model. So, but Einstein is not completely correct in his explanation. But I'm not saying. I mean, what I'm saying certainly conforms to Einstein's lecture in Leiden in 1920. The field is not particles. Particles means things fit between them. I don't know what you mean. So springs are between the ether particles, and nothing fits between them at the same time. I mean, there's nothing else exists in the universe. Everything else are just waves through the ether. So why do you? So there's nothing else that would want to fit there. Everything else are just wave. Everything we know is just a wave waving through the ether. If there can be a vacuum, why need a liquid ether and not just an occurs razor vacuum universe? I don't know what you're saying. If there can be a vacuum, The vacuum is created, the low pressure is created when the ether interacts with massive particles like galaxies. So the ether interacts with a galaxy and disappears, it self destructs, it annihilates. The ether annihilates upon interacting with a massive particle, but only when it hits, so like Earth. So some of the ether flows into the Earth, into the first layer, and annihilates upon interacting with the first layer of the Earth. So the ether, when it interacts with the air, it self destructs. As it flows into the center of the Earth, it keeps self destructing. That is gravity. And by the way, by the time it reaches the center, there's no ether left. There is no gravity at the center of the Earth. If you're at the center of the Earth, right, you don't fall anywhere. If there was a cavity at smack at the center of the Earth, you would float. There's zero gravity at the center of the Earth. So by the time the ether flows into the center of the Earth, there is no more ether. So as it flows into the Earth, it self destructs, it annihilates. So if there can be a vacuum, why need a liquid ether and not just an occurs razor vacuum universe? I don't know. I don't know what you're saying. Razor occurser. I don't know what you want to ask. There can be a vacuum, but because there is an oversupply of dark energy, meaning of new ether, so there's actually pressure because of the extra dark energy. So there's actually high pressure in the interglobular space that is pushing the ether to flow into the universe, and it's pushing ether to annihilate into massive galaxies and massive air and the massive earth. So we are here right now, we're experiencing the flow of ether through us, we're waving through the ether, but the interaction with the ether pushes us down. By the way, it doesn't push us sideways. This is just like fluid mechanics. So because of the gradient pressure of the ether, because the ether has low pressure where it interacts with mass, so the earth itself is low pressure ether, but where my head is, there is high pressure ether. This difference in pressure creates the effect of gravity. That is, this imbalance of pressure creates the effect of gravity, and there's no difference in pressure from left to right. So I don't feel any push to the side. And this is why Earth is feeling a pressure force into the sun, but there's no pressure force. It's a balanced force relative to its orbit. That's why there's no loss of energy. There's no loss of energy because the Earth is waving through the ether right now. So there's ether flowing into the center of the Earth, but there's an imbalance of ether flowing towards the sun. So we could detect with an interferometer. We should be able to detect where it's night where it's the middle of the night compared to where it's the middle of the day. You should get an imbalance, and GR should predict it. If you run an interferometer, you'll see the imbalance, and but GR predicts it. This is just GR. GR agrees that everybody calls it the curvature of space-time, but the equations don't say that there is a curvature of space-time. The equations say that there is a flow of ether. GR is ether. I say so, but Einstein says so in 1920 in Leiden. Go read his lecture. This is where he gave the lecture. And Leiden is in the Netherlands. This is where Lorentz was teaching. So Lorentz heard this. Lorentz was like, oh, so you're going back to the theory of ether. Okay, then, everything is fair. So everything is fine. So Einstein went, not completely, but he he believed in the ether theories. I believe it. Einstein believes it. So anything you want to say, tell Einstein. You know, I'm happy to answer questions, but you should have asked Einstein in 1920. But everyone ignores Einstein for some reason. But when people say ether, everybody gets upset. But Einstein said so. So, but GR says so. It's not even. But Maxwell said so. Everyone says. But quantum field theory says so. It's like everyone agrees there is an ether. It's just that no one is allowed to say that. Everyone is supposed to implicitly agree that there is an ether, but it's illegal to talk about it explicitly. I don't understand it, but it's up to you. If you don't want to talk about it, it's your problem, not mine. If there can be a vacuum, why need a liquid? Okay, I don't understand your question. You gotta ask it again. Are you aware that as you speak, you change your answers to questions all the time? You're constantly contradicting. So why don't you come and debate me? This is why we debate. You just write down your answers so they don't change so much. Okay, ask me a question. What have I changed? It's not like I change in real time. I change over time. I slowly, this is work in progress. I'm sorry that I'm one of the only ones on this planet working on this model, on this theory. It's just Einstein, me, and a bunch of individuals. None of you are helping. But if you feel there's any contradiction, ask me questions. You stopped asking questions. I'm answering questions from a few minutes ago. What am I? What is the contradiction? Ask me. I don't know what you want from me. What is the question? I, so like you're constantly contradicting yourself. That's an ad hominem. You gotta tell me exactly what the contradiction is. Don't tell me I'm contradicting myself. Tell me what the contradiction is. Maybe I made a mistake. I don't know. Stop with the ad hominem and get down to business. Tell me exactly what you don't understand, or maybe I am contradicting myself. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not getting paid for this, so I don't care one way or the other. So if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't care. I'm not some some professor, some Don Lincoln. He's one of the best ones. I mean, he's so humble. I love him, but he gets paid, so maybe he's afraid. I don't think he's afraid. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. But I'm certainly not getting paid for this. So what do I care? I honestly don't care one way or the other. I just don't like it. I just don't like the way general relativity is explained. It's incorrect. I just don't like it. I don't understand it. Somebody has joined us. Andrew, what's up? You. Why? What happened?
I was debating with some people, and all of a sudden they loud mic'd and just horrible people. They trash talk me. They talked about my English. They trash talk my family for no reason, for absolutely no reason. I just proved that they are wrong politely, and they try to loud mic me and use their stereo to sound like, let's say, sound loud and just loud mic me.
Mm. Yeah, people. Congratulations. Now you know people are terrible. Yeah. Well, hopefully one day you'll become rich and famous, and you're not going to be terrible. Oh, you muted your mic.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, let me just you want to talk about something?
No, I'm too tired.
Yeah. Also, every time we start talking, you disconnect and you leave me alone. Like
Yeah,
after 5 minutes.
suddenly.
Yeah. Wait, what's wrong with your internet? It's your internet?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Anyway, listen, I'm answering questions. I have important people with me, like big YouTubers, that I'm answering their questions. So I'll talk to you after if you want.
good.
All right. So where were we? We were here. So existence, existence. So springs. Okay, we answered what. Razor. I don't know. Look, Existence University. What is this? I don't know. Maybe you can clear up this question, clarify this question. Occurs Occam's razor? Maybe it's Occam's razor? Just an Occam's razor vacuum universe? Let me see. If there can be a vacuum, why need a liquid ether? What do you, I don't need. There's no need. There can be a vacuum. This universe can collapse. It doesn't collapse because of dark energy. Dark energy seems to be the creation of new ether. And I think this is what Einstein said. This is the lambda that Einstein added to his GR. So if you don't have that, then the universe collapses because the ether gets eaten up. Okay. Because the ether gets eaten up by interacting, by annihilating with massive particles. So you end up with, the universe collapses. So you need dark energy at least as much as is being annihilated. It happens to be that there's an overabundance of this lambda. There's an overabundance of dark energy. So the universe expands. I think you don't have any other way because you need a positive pressure. Because if you don't have a positive pressure, but you don't, it doesn't have to expand, I guess. But the logic of there's logic to this universe. So there's positive pressure in the interglobular space. That is where new dark matter gets new ether gets created. So that is like the high level. That is the high pressure spots, and the galaxies are the low pressure. So there's flow from high pressure to low pressure. That creates a gradient. So the galaxies and the globular clusters, like me right now, there is a gradient of pressure, and this gradient of pressure creates gravity. I am feeling gravity because of a gradient in ether pressure. There's low ether pressure at my feet. There's high ether pressure at my head. This gradient of pressure, just like buoyancy, this is reverse buoyancy. That's it. So if there can be a vacuum, why need a liquid ether? There can be a vacuum, but the vacuum will collapse the universe if you don't resupply new liquid ether. So that's the way this universe works. It's just a balance. It happens to be a positive balance of more ether being created than is being destroyed. Not just an Occam's razor vacuum universe. I don't know what you mean. Occurs razor. I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean. Are you aware that you speak contradicting yourself? Okay. You say opposites. You said nothing is between the ether particles. Then in the next sentence, you said it was springs. That is a contradiction. Look, I don't think I've ever changed my mind on the the makeup of the ether in order to create waves at the speed of light. Even Don Lincoln, in this very lecture that we're reviewing right now, in this very lecture, he described the ether. Why the speed of light is ultimate. I mean, maybe I can find it where he described the ether. He said it has to be particles, massive particles, connected. He basically described it just the way as I just very near to how I describe it. And there's nothing new about it. We know that it has to be very rigid. These springs have to be very rigid. The particles probably have to be very light relatively in order to get waves to move so fast. Also, there's no energy dissipation. So this thing doesn't vibrate. There are no, but the vibration is the quantum, right? The quantum particles moving in and out of existence, that does happen. That is the vibration. So there is heat. So there is heat because you do have the minimum, the zero energy state of the ether it is waving. It never is completely quiet, and that gives rise to the Heisenberg uncertainty. So waves, it's not particles that come in and out of existence, it's waves that show up and then destroy each other by, through constructive and destructive interference. But these are waves in the ether. Everything we know in physics, everything you know, these are just phenomenon of the ether. So all these phenomenon, they give rise to whatever you feel is the ether. So I think if you just imagine it's a bunch of particles interconnected with springs, that's good enough. That's all you need. Now I'm saying these particles don't. I would say there's nothing between them. There could be a vacuum because I'm imagining like ping pong balls. So there should be a vacuum between them. But there's no problem with this vacuum between these particles except for the springs. There's also springs between these particles. Otherwise, you need to create the speed of light. You need to have propagation of energy, which is light, which is a transverse wave, and the wave is it's a three-dimensional sphere, expanding sphere, followed by or with a rotating magnetic wave. Right, a magnetic wave is a rotation. It's a temporary rotation. If you imagine a three-dimensional sphere, when you see like Maxwell's equations creating waves, those are cross sections of spheres. So you have to imagine the spheres. Those are spheres, and the motion of the particles, the arrows that they draw are that is actually the ether moving. The ether is moving transversely and right and left. Transversely is the electric field, and right and left is the magnetic field. Is the magnetic wave, I think. So anyway, but you can just run a simulation of Maxwell's equations. Just take a point particle, a point charge, move it up, accelerate it up, and then slowly stop it. That should create a three-dimensional electromagnetic wave, a single three-dimensional electromagnetic spherical wave expanding. Just run the simulation on Maxwell's equation, wave equation. That is what you should get. So I'm not saying anything new, nothing. I'm just saying that is the behavior of the ether. That's all. It's really very simple. Anyway, so maybe we should listen to Don Lincoln explaining what the ether is. Let me find it.
Ether was thought by some. Transmitted light was called the luminiferous ether, or just ether for short. Ether was first proposed in ancient Greek times as a substance found above the earth, what was called the terrestrial sphere back when such names as Plato, Aristotle, and Ptolemy were leading intellectual luminaries. In the 17th, 18th, and 19th century, ether was thought by some to be a substance that permeated the entire universe. It was everywhere and conducted light. There were a few issues with ether. One thing is that it wasn't something that people could directly observe. So that's a problem. Without observation, you don't know if it's real or if it's like discussing how many angels dance on the head of a pin. The other problem is that, in general, waves travel quickly through very stiff and dense materials and slowly through ones that are low density or that can move easily. For instance, sound tends to travel quicker through liquids than through gases and quicker.
He's explaining exactly, all the properties that the ether should have.
Through solids than liquids. And even with solids, sound travels faster through stiff materials like steel and slower through materials like clay. If you want a cool fact, sound is 17 times faster in steel than in air. Light, as we have seen, is extremely fast. That suggests that the material that carries it should be solid and very, very stiff. Yet, of course,
That's it. That's where I got it from. I mean, I don't think I heard it from him first. I think I just thought of it first, but maybe I heard it from him first. I don't know.
we'd notice if the universe were solid and stiff, so this was a bit of a problem.
No, you wouldn't, because you're waving through a stiff, solid universe. You wouldn't be able to tell. You are the wave through this stiff material. You cannot tell that it's there. You are just a wave. You cannot tell that it's there. I'm sorry. You wouldn't be able to tell. That's not true. Any more questions? No questions. Okay.
Proponents of the ether simply table the problem as a mystery still to be solved.
Well, I solved it for you. You're welcome.
There was another aspect of light and the ether that troubled late 19th century scientists, and that was the question of whether the ether was moving or whether the Earth was moving through the ether or what.
Yeah. Everyone is wrong. Einstein explained that ether is gravity, but Einstein didn't understand gravity. Einstein did not understand general relativity. How do I know that? Einstein said so. That's a quote. Since mathematicians invaded relativity, I no longer understand it. So take it with Einstein. If you don't like me saying Einstein did not understand relativity, that's between you and Einstein. I am certain Einstein did not understand relativity because he keeps saying, everybody knows he keeps making mistakes. He keeps predicting wrong things. He said there should be no black holes, no gravitational waves. He didn't understand it. People explained it to him. He said it, since mathematicians invaded relativity, I no longer understand it. He didn't understand the mathematics that he needed to use in order to develop GR. It was all new to him. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if it's too much for you to absorb, but that's the way it is. So Einstein did not get it right. It's not the curvature of spacetime. Curved geometry is the mathematical tool Einstein used to develop GR. If you're going to tell me the conclusion of that is that space is curved, that is the tool that he used. You're not going to tell me that the tool is the conclusion. That doesn't make any sense. Rather, the conclusion is, it's not even the conclusion, it's the theory, the very notion is that space or ether flows through the apple. That is what is pulling the apple towards the earth. Ether is flowing through the moon. That is what is dragging the moon into the earth. That's it. Very simple. Einstein did not understand GR, so says no one else but Einstein. I have nothing to do with it. I can assure you he did not understand it. He also agreed, but I don't care. That's just his opinion. But my opinion is the one that counts. He did not understand GR. Let's continue.
And this particular question was made a little more concrete in the early 1860s when Scottish physicist James Clerk Maxwell pulled together a ton of work by earlier researchers and invented what we now call Maxwell's equations.
And it's based on the ether. This theory is based on the ether. The ether is waving. Everything is this ether, ether, ether. You can't just abandon the ether when everything in physics is based on it. It doesn't. Why would you do that? You need to throw away Maxwell. You need to throw away like you cannot have any wave theory. You cannot have gravity. You cannot have Maxwell's electrodynamics. You cannot have quantum field theory. You cannot have the double slit experiment. You cannot have wave particle duality because you cannot have waves. It cannot wave. What is waving? You don't have any physics. Everything goes away. All you can have is Newtonian mechanics as particles. Okay. But what are you going to do about electrodynamics? You can't have that. You cannot have gravity. You don't have a field for gravity. You don't have gravitational waves. You don't have a field for that. And you don't have the particle wave duality because you don't have anything to wave through. So you can have particles And then you don't have the speed of light. Everything can move at infinite speed. Nothing is stopping a particle from moving at infinite speed. So you don't have the speed of light as a limit. Your physics is completely different than reality. So instead, just embrace the ether and everything fits and everybody's happy. Why is it so difficult? I understand it's not so intuitive because, as Don Lincoln says, you expect a solid to get in your way. You expect to choke on this liquid. I understand. But the answer is there are no particles. There's no room for particles. Everything is waving through the ether. We are waving. The air we're breathing is waving through the ether. Everything is just waving phenomenon through the ether. Why? That's that should be the simplest. It's a simple mechanical explanation. I don't see the issue. And I'm the least. I'm the least one to come up with ethereal ideas. Sorry for the double entendre. I'm the one to be the least magical. I'm the dummy dum dum. I'm the most mechanical. Well, because I'm the most mechanical, I end up with a mechanical ether. But like you would, I'm the least magical because anyway, forget it. Whatever. Any questions? You have questions? Contradiction. Okay. Oh my god, dude, you are literally saying everything is particles and everything is waves. Look, you gotta join me on the stream. We gotta have a discussion. You can't quote. You gotta give me the exact quote. What did I say? What do you want? You want me to replay what I just said? Everything is a particle. Okay, it looks like particles when you interact, right? That this is I'm not saying this is quantum field theory. I'm not saying anything new. Look, I'm not saying anything new. I'm saying everything we know in science is correct. I'm continuing everything. I'm just it's like with the heliocentric and the earth centric model. There's no difference between the heliocentric and the earth centric. There's no difference. It's just a simpler perspective if you look at the motion of the stars of the planets from the sun. Then you get ellipses. Otherwise, you get retrograde. You can have retrograde. You like retrograde? Enjoy your retrograde. You want an ellipse? Enjoy your ellipse. It's up to you. So I'm not saying anything new. I'm not contradicting any known science. Nothing. I'm just saying it's a simpler way to look at the universe with the ether than without. You still agree there is an ether. You just don't want to call it ether. Fine. You agree there is quantum field theory. You agree there is a fabric, a curved fabric for gravity. You agree there is gravitational waves. You agree that Maxwell's waves are waving. You agree that there is a speed limit. Why is there a speed limit? So anything you ask me about particles, ask the the particle experts, the quantum field theorists. They would explain to you everything is a wave until it collapses. The wave collapses, it seems to be a particle. That is the very collapse. But there is no particle. It's just the interaction. It's just the act of interacting, what they call measurement. It's an instant. There is no particle. It's just an interaction. It looks like a particle. There is no particle. So says quantum field theory. I'm not saying anything new. I have nothing new to say. It's just a simpler mechanical point of view. I'm not saying anything new, anything different than anyone in the world in consensus modern physics. Nothing is new. I'm just explaining everything. I'm just saying everything fits together perfectly in a grand unified field theory. That's all I'm saying. You don't need to work hard. Everything fits together. I just don't see the contradictions. People say general relativity doesn't work with quantum mechanics. What are you talking? Why not? General relativity gives rise to quantum mechanics. General relativity says that there is a fluid pulling down the apple from the tree. It's filling the universe. There is no room for particles. Everything must be a wave. Therefore, particle wave duality is a conclusion of general relativity. It's not that it doesn't. It's not the only there is no issue for general for GR to work with quantum field theory. Quantum field theory is a result of general relativity. What do you want me to say? This is so ridiculous. Anyway, what else do you want to ask? If everything is waves, then ether is not a fluid. LOL. Everything is waving through the ether. The ether is a fluid. It's explained by GR. GR, go listen to Lenny Susskind in his course, Introduction to General Relativity. He explains, I didn't go through the whole course, I went to the first 4 or 5 hours. The way he explains gravity is with Gauss's theorem and Gauss's flow. Gravity is a fluid for all intents and purposes. What do you want from me? Wait, did somebody just send me a message somewhere? I heard a message. I don't know where it. Oh, there it is. Let me see. Free Palestine. All right, we got a debate. Judas, let's debate. Free Palestine. Oh my God. Not Juan Carlos. Judas, let's debate. Let's debate three. No, let's just debate. Join me, VC. Oh, I didn't want that. I wanted to say VC. Oh, there you are. Hey, what's up? Let me just answer some another. Oh, you're here. Oh my God. Anyway, if everything is waves, then ether is not a fluid. No, everything is waving through something. Ether is the only true thing in the universe. Everything is waving through the ether. I am waving through the ether right now. And free Palestine. Let's debate free Palestine. All right. Okay, so let me end this stream. Although there's 3 people, let me end the stream. Yeah. So I'll end the stream and then you wait here. I'll just end the stream and restart it. Okay, everybody. I got a debate. Free Palestine. So I'll see you later. Bye.